Hey, Planeteers. I know I missed a couple of weeks, and that's on me. Just work got crazy and life, that happens. But I said I was going to do this weekly stack. So this week is not exactly weekly. I'm going to do something a little different and a little faster because WonderCon is this weekend, and I'm trying to get everything together for that as well. Um, which I should say, yes, on Friday night at 7 p.m. In room 300A is the Secrets of a Successful Pop Culture podcast. And that is hosted by David Avalone and Ryland Grant of the Writer's Block. And they invited me on the panel. So I'll be talking about that. Successful, sure. I'll say it. So I'm just going to cover some number ones from the past 3 weeks, that including this week, and then we'll just move on. So normally I go to House of Secrets, I pick my books up at House of Secrets in Burbank, and then I read what I can out of each stack, and I've got many stacks still of ongoing series, but I did have a bunch of number ones in the last 3 weeks, so let's go with it. First, we went to the next level with Lobo, and this is Scotty Young is the writer, uh, Jorge Corona is the artist, and the colorist is Jean-Francois Beaulieu, and lettering is Nate Piekos of Blambot. And I hope that by going to WonderCon, maybe I'll meet somebody from Blambot and get a little grip on this. But anyway, I'm gonna confess that Lobo is one of those characters like Venom that for me it's small doses, but I did read a lot of the original comics, and then I reached this conclusion at 60. I like seeing Lobo in things. I just don't think that I have anything more to be told with Lobo, but you might love it. Scotty Young absolutely kills it. No pun intended, I think. And it kind of pulls together all the different incarnations, versions of him that have been, and so it carries the spirit of what original co-creators, I think Keith Giffen and Roger Slifer had done. So I enjoyed it well enough, but I don't think I'm going to buy number two. But you might want to, because if you're a Lobo fan, this was a great Lobo book. I'm just not a Lobo fan. I am, however, a fan of Hannah Rose May as a writer and an actor, and she teamed with Kelsey Ramsey. Let me just make sure I'm not leaving anybody else out. Oh, and colors by Heather Breckel and letters by Jody Troutman. What's the book? The Exorcism at Buckingham Palace. This is spiritually a follow-up. Maybe it is a direct sequel to the Exorcism at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue that Hannah Rose May wrote last year or a year and a half ago for IDW, which is now IDW Dark. This is a good slow burn. It feels very connected to a different concept, a particular reason why this possession may be happening. And the only thing that I'm not like super keen on is the title itself, but I realize there's a lot of people that if you had a different title would just go, oh, it's another book. But this one does tell you exactly what the series is going to be. There's a demon. There's going to be an exorcism at Buckingham Palace. The royal family is possessed. Who's to say? And in the comic, who's to say? So, and one more from weeks ago, or last week, I believe, is the Sentry number one, which is written once more by his original creator, Paul Jenkins. The original co-creator, the original artist was Jay Lee. The artist here is Christian Rosado, really great job. Colorist is Matt Milla, and the letterer is VC's Joe Carbagna. And I dig this, and I had to stop, and think. There are two reasons why a character like the Sentry will suddenly have a 5-issue miniseries and then not for a while. One, yes, I have a feeling that because of Thunderbolts, asterisk, New Avengers, that he may be important in Doomsday and Secret War. However, the other reason is every now and then you got to keep the trademark alive. So you see series of characters, you're like, really? And luckily, more often than not, they're actually really good miniseries. I can't call them series because they're not, it's not designed to go forward, for years and years and years. Anyway, this did make me come to a realization, and that is that I am enjoying a character like the Sentry best, in which, even though I recognize perhaps an era that he's in, I'm not going to get bogged down by the continuity. Unless it explicitly tells me it's happening in a certain thing, this is just it, and I'll come back to it with one of the other number ones. And it's a cool character. It's not a rehash of what the original Sentry miniseries / graphic novel, if you want to call it, and that's a good thing. And that original was great. So, this is good, and it has a different take. Paul Jenkins has come back and has something different to say about Bob. And, so until they tell me otherwise, even though it's clearly like Spider-Man's and the Avengers in this, it's like, okay, this is just an imaginary story, as they all are. So, I enjoyed that. Good. One that I signed up for, or I ordered sight unseen, really, other than I guess I got a press release from Oni about this. It's Spirit of the Shadows. People who follow on Fanboy Planet may note that I have kind of gone down a weird Phantom of the Opera rabbit hole for the last month or so, but this might have triggered it. It's Daniel Ziegler is the writer, and Nick Cagnetti is the art and colorist, and also he's a co-writer, and with a letterer. Let me not leave that out. Ferran Delgado, and I've never seen Nick Cagnetti's art before, or I haven't known that I have. I always open up that it's possible that I have and just didn't know that's what saw a panel or something. And I really like it. There's something wild and unpredictable. It reminded me of Mike Allred a little bit, but there's also a lot of Kirby to the coloring, or coloring that Kirby wished he could have had when he was at his. So I'm talking about Jack Kirby, of course, the King, and one of those people that absolutely everybody in comics knows, and he's affected everybody. But this is kind of a Phantom of the Opera pastiche, but it's taking place largely in the afterlife. It is not Eric the Phantom as we know him, though it's borrowing from, I think, almost every version of the Phantom. I can see little things here and there, but down to there is a character named Lemley, which is Universal. Carl Lemley was the guy who kicked off the whole Universal Monsters, or what we now call the Universal Monsters, craze in 1930. He was the producer and Universal Studios founder. So this was cool. It was wild. I don't think, maybe I should have seen the ending coming, but I couldn't, and so I really dig that. And so Spirit of the Shadows #1 from Oni, and it's everything that I'd hoped I was going to get, and maybe a little more, and that's always nice too. So here's a big #1, and I'm acting as if there's going to be a #2. Well, there sort of is. It's going to flip-flop. This is the DC take on the big two crossover, although I guess the big two really now are, for Marvel is Deadpool, and DC it's Batman. So we've already had that. This is, though, harkening back to where these crossovers all began back in 1976, maybe 1977. And that is Superman and Spider-Man. Now, in a month, we're going to get Marvel's take, which will be Spider-Man and Superman. Actually, there's no "and" here. It's just Superman, Spider-Man. And the big lead story that anchors is by Mark Waid, and Jorge Jimenez is the artist, Tomeo Mori is the colorist, and Tom Napolitano is the letterer. And I do have to call out the editor is Marie Javins, who has really, I think is one of the key people, at least, because I don't know, in the inner halls, but she's one of the key people that have made DC so damn fun to read in the last 2 years. So thank you. Hope maybe I get to meet you one day. But anyway, this lead story is Truth, Justice, and Great Responsibility, teaming up Dr. Octopus and Brainiac. That should be no surprise. And that harkens back. The original crossover was Dr. Octopus and Lex Luthor. And that was the dollar giant size treasury edition, which you could probably go back into a shop right now and find on the stand. They did a replica for $20, and they added an Alex Ross painting of what I think was a Ross Andrew original cover drawing. Anyway, that was fun. It was such stuff as dreams are made on when I was a kid, and now this was fun as well. And just like the Sentry, look, everybody's acting like this is normal, and that there's no big cosmic event that crosses them over. Like technically, I think it was the Batman Deadpool one did come up with a reason why they were meeting, and because that's been an idea back and forth for DC and Marvel when they cross over, or Marvel and DC, whoever wants to be first, I don't care. You're both pretty, and they sometimes they just happen, and sometimes, I mean, I think there's a character they still both own the copyright to, Access, who can go back and forth between the two universes. Anyway, so it was fun, and like the Batman Deadpool Batmans, there's a bunch of backup stories as well. You get through the main story, and then it gets to these backups that bring other characters in, and I'll just give it, there's a Lois Lane and Mary Jane crossover, Superboy Prime. Let me say that again with a deep tone. Superboy Prime and the Amazing Spider-Man. And I think you really do have to kind of like specify what adjective you're using for him. By Christopher Priest, and Daniel Semper is the artist, Alejandro Sanchez the colorist, Willie Schubert is the letterer. And the only reason I want to call that out is because I acknowledge I find Superboy Prime kind of problematic in every story he's ever appeared in after Crisis on Infinite Earths. And when I say problematic, not like in the way some people do, I just mean it's another character that I'm like, I don't know how or why I'm supposed to care about him. It's sort of like what happened when they redesigned Jason Todd in the wake of Crisis on Infinite Earths, when he then is the character who became Red Hood. The original Jason Todd was kind of a clone of Dick Grayson, really, and same origin, all that, and yet I was okay with that. When they turned him into a snot-nosed punk who was difficult for Batman to deal with, I didn't like that guy. Red Hood's better, but these stories, they are what they are. So back to Superboy, that would be the Con-El version, and Spider-Man 2099. No, I'm sorry, it's not the Con-El. It's Jonathan, the young one who is about to become the young one again. And Matt Fraction writes Jimmy Olsen meeting Carnage, and yeah. Okay, Jonathan Kent and Ben Parker. This by Jeff Lemire and Rafa Sandoval, and Ulysses Ariola is the colorist, Becca Carey is the letterer. I could see this story of having happened, and it's really cool, and they don't beat your head over it, beat you over the head with it. Boy, can you tell? A little scattered here, but anyway, I thought it was great, and I know I'm not calling forth all the. I mean, there's some great talent in here. Sean Murphy, Tom King, Jim Lee draws the Lois Lane and Mary Jane story, with Scott Williams inking. There's a just Daily Planet and Daily Bugle crossover. Greg Rucka, Nicholas Scott, Marcello Maiolo, and Ariana Mar. It was an interesting debate, essentially, between Lois Lane and J. Jonah Jameson on Jack Ryder's show. That's The Creeper, but we have no sign of The Creeper. So I think I mentioned this before when they did that Valentine's Day special, Chains of Love, that I want to see them flesh out what they think the Creeper is in this reality for DC. And the last one is Power Girl and Punisher. Gail Simone, of course, it's great. Belen Ortega is the artist. Jordi Belair is the colorist. Lucas Gatton is the letterer. And I don't know if I'm completely up to date on Power Girl, what her personality is like right now, but I could see this crossover too, and so thought that was cool. I enjoyed it, and as always, Gail Simone knocked it out of the park. I'm hard pressed to think of a single story by her that I have not liked, and there may be. It's just maybe I haven't read them. I know I haven't read everything she's written. I've read a lot, but I really enjoyed that. Now, I'm gonna go against the grain for me. I bought this oversized black and white, and I have way too many magazines from this guy. So this is I'm not sure what's the name of his publishing company. It's it's hard to say. Mike Hoffman is the artist. He's mostly the writer. I mean, I think other people, Rolando Ciccatelli and Zano, yeah, were the also did art, but mostly it's Mike Hoffman. He's kind of a one man show trying to um, revive the look and the feel of the Warren magazine's creepy, eerie Vampirella. Hence, why you would have Octavia as a character similar to, although he also has another Vampirella. Uh, I'm going to say it knockoff, because this is aping it. And every time I have bought and read one of the different titles that he's put out, and I think I've given every single one of them a shot. I I don't know. They don't really make the stories don't make a lot of sense. He draws almost exactly like Frank Frazetta, and that's okay. I mean, it's good. It's just in the service of stories that and he could use an editor, and I think he's his own editor. So, I mean, look, I want to say anybody able to put together a book and get it out there, and he's a fine artist, but anybody able to get it out into the stands, and I don't know. I think I have seen that it is in the Lunar catalog. It's hard to remember. Uh, he does have major distribution, but uh, even if you're a horror fan, and I hate to say it's just if you're going to buy it for the art or the cover, yeah, go ahead. But who Octavia is, what she does, there are two stories featuring that character. It just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, there we go. Uh, I may have to skip another week, but maybe I'll try to do something earlier before, post WonderCon, because I'm sure I'll buy a bunch of books there. It'll probably be another condensed too, because, I'm working on this secrets of a popular of a successful pop culture podcast, right? So I got to keep some rhythm up. And there's going to be early next week. I think you're going to be kind of serializing a conversation I had that will have to do with an announcement that comes out of WonderCon. Uh, I would really appreciate hearing your thoughts on this. Like, what books do you agree or disagree? Uh, cool. I mean, everybody has their own tastes, right? But I'm going to tackle, I think, what will be a controversial subject, but there's an interesting viewpoint on it. So I look forward to getting that out there and having that next week. And of course, always check out the website. Because we've got things like pop culture. Sorry, it's on my brain. Pulp Arcana Studios. That's my friend Mark Gelino, who does incredible toy photography and reviews action figures for me for Fanboy Planet. We're still in very weird times, and I turn to comics. And I guess there's one more. Maybe I'll edit in the middle of this. That no, I'll say it. That I realized I finished. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Rites of Spring, the second miniseries about a serial killer bear in kind of a Richard Scarry, anthropomorphic animals. Although there are savage animals too, feral animals. I don't that hasn't been gotten out. But when that first miniseries came, I really dug it. I really loved the viewpoint. This second one I did not enjoy as much, and I was really trying to figure out why, because I mean, it gave me more answers about what was going on, and I think he's a great creator. But there was an attitude at the end to it that I realized I need to seek out more things that are optimistic right now, because I mean, that's why I like Superman and Spider-Man. Give me the people that are heroes, and one reason I'm excited about Universal Fan Fest Nights is give me One Piece. I discovered the live action series. I'm still not diving into the manga. I don't know if I have enough life left to live to get through all the manga and the anime and keep up with everything else I want to do. But I did go through the 2 seasons of Netflix of One Piece that's live action on Netflix. And there you go. Even in a world of pirates, uh, there's still what matters: friendship, honor, kindness, absolutely, and and then it's wacky. It's so great at world building as well. But I found it beautiful, and your mileage may vary, but I needed a show that was about people that were really that good. So even when they're pirates. So let me remind you, as always, use your powers for good. See you next week or the week after.